Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TMOF Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, I am Russ. Joining me again today is the one and only Predictions Bitch. Oh, sorry, it's King, isn't it? It's King.
The King.
The King, right, sorry. Well, yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made there. Joined by Ash. TMOF Wrestling. All right, Ash?
All right.
You had a haircut?
No, what are you on about?
No, I'm just observation. It was nothing to do with the hair loss. I'm just asking if you've had a haircut.
I would ask for you the same, but you always hide yours.
Yeah, but it's only because I need a haircut. Mine is so long at the minute. Look at that. If I just kept that out, look at this. What kind of image is that? Nobody needs to see that. I'm stuck now as well. It's going to keep popping out of my hat. But it is currently 8th of... Or no, it's not. It's the 8th of September.
Yeah, we're not doing the American style date, are we?
No. And it is about, I think, 29 degrees at the moment, isn't it?
I have 25 on my laptop, but that probably means it's like 30.
Yeah, 9 o'clock at night. That's what we love, isn't it? I think sleep's overrated anyway, to be honest with you.
Well, no.
Everybody, welcome to the show. We are back again this week, and we're going to talk. We've had a good weekend of wrestling.
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to talk about the weekend of wrestling. I haven't seen All Out, is a slight spoiler. I've seen 2 matches from All Out, and they were the 2 that everybody said that you need to watch, really. So,
right.
Which you can probably guess which those ones are. But we're going to talk about WWE's Payback, and I suppose a few other little bits of wrestling news. Shorter one today. It's not going to be some big breakdown of review, really. There's only sort of a couple of matches I really want to talk about from Payback as well, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think they're easy ones to do this week.
Yeah, I'd say so. But I think more than anything, I don't want to stay on this too long. I'll be totally honest, because I'm really bored of it now. Everybody's going to know exactly what I'm talking about here, but of course,
is it Jake Arkill saying he wants to stay?
I'm glad he doesn't like Jade. No, it's of course Phil Brooks, CM Punk.
Never heard of him.
So I'm beginning to think Tony Khan wishes he'd never heard of him. Obviously, since the last episode, it all came to light, didn't it, that the suspension led to his release and subsequent termination of all of his employments with AEW. I think key term there was employments, plural. You know, so he obviously was more than just a wrestler on the roster, but he's now officially gone from the company.
Yep.
Thoughts?
They should have done this a year ago. And the problem that we've had, since he's come back from that suspension or whatever injury last time, probably would have happened.
I suppose in a way, though, him coming back, we did get Collision. But then what does the future of Collision look like and everything else? Because it, you know, the way Collision's been sort of presented to everybody is it was just CM Punk's show. It was the way to get him away from the Elite and everybody on Dynamite.
What was it? CMFTR or was it FTCMR or whatever it was? It was their show.
CMFTR, yeah.
It was their show. No one else's.
Just a weird one. It's sad, really. Well. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they've still got a lot of good guys on there, but I think it's just sad that he just, I think ultimately, whether he's right or wrong with certain things, he just wasn't able to get out of his own way. I think that's the way to look at it. I don't think it's all absolutely all Punk's fault. I do think that Jack Perry baited him, knowing exactly how he would react, but then that's Punk's fault for reacting the way he does. But, you know, ultimately, I think, you know, it's a hard one because for all of you can say what AEW and Tony Khan's faults are, I genuinely really do believe that Tony offered him the world. Really?
Yeah.
I think
off your own TV show, you're gonna.
Yeah. And world championships and everything else. You know, I don't think he can say the same I don't think he can use the same rhetoric that he had when he left WWE about the company holding him down and, you know, all this, that, and the other. I think but that's what doesn't reflect well, and I think that's probably all I'll say on it. It's a shame, but it doesn't reflect very well on CM Punk. You know, multiple companies this is happening to him in, where he just can't seem to work in line with everybody else. It's just a big shame. But obviously, it is worth mentioning if you didn't know that news already, the firing wasn't because. Well, yeah, but some people don't spend that much time on the internet today, which is more power to them. But the firing didn't come. Oh, yeah, I'm hearing that. The firing didn't come through the altercation with Jack Perry directly. What they're saying is it was because of the altercation he had with Tony Khan. And look, in any other line of work, that would get you sacked.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, it would. So they used the word lunging. Tony Khan said he was fearing for his life. There's all the memes, everything else. Look, none of us were there. Not our place to say, but the whole thing is just a shame.
Also, Ace Steel got released again.
I will be honest, I didn't get the news when he came back. I didn't realise he was even back there.
No, I don't think it was when Punk came back as well. I think it was before that. So
that's mad. Well, Ace Steel's gone now as well. So whatever they do, whatever Punk does in his next venture, obviously, you know, hope he does well. But it's just a shame. Life will go on. AEW will go on. But we've seen his last AEW match. You're right there. You look a bit shocked.
Microphone device changed.
Oh, you sound different. Well, while you're having more technical issues, I think this is a good time to come in with a little bit of a break. We've got a little thing coming up for you right now. Ted's going to introduce himself. You can head over and check that one out once you're done with this one. But this one, where are you listening to us? Ash, can you even hear anything? Who knows at this point? But wherever you listen to us on, if it's on Apple, if it's on Spotify, you can leave us a 5-star review. If you could do that, it'd be absolutely lovely. We love the Meltzer star ratings on here when it's 5 stars for us. That's great. Ash, let's take a break.
Yeah, the fucking microphone's gone.
Okay.
You are currently listening to one half of the greatest tag team of podcasts there are out there today. Once you get finished with this great episode, go on over on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, even over on YouTube, and check me out, Ted the Hillbilly Hill of the Hill Truth Wrestling Podcast, award-winning, critically acclaimed, #1 in Antarctica, and I'm going to break down the bad guys, the villains, the heels of professional wrestling, and always remember, there's the real truth, then there's the heel truth.
All right then, everybody, we're back. I think Ash is all right. We'll hope and pray. Fingers crossed. Everything crossed for you. That's what you look like from a distance, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
All right, so we're going to go through. Should we go? Whilst we're on the topic of AEW again, I've not seen all of All Out, so we might as well start with a couple bits of that. Have you seen anything from All Out at all?
I've not seen any footage by her. It's really good.
I think all things considered, obviously we just talked about Punk and we'll leave that there, but all things considered after that, this was a really, really good follow-up to what was their biggest event, or potentially the biggest wrestling event ever held of All In. This actually really delivered. There's probably an element of that I think would have been because of what was going on. It was, it pushed everybody to put on an even greater show. Because you had guys that weren't All In, so they probably wanted to really make their mark. Looking at Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs, they had an absolute banger of a match. Really good.
All right.
So I saw that one, and I've also seen the strap match.
Yeah, the match that got me annoyed when I found out who was going to be in it.
Right, yeah, because we could have had him for all... But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Originally, obviously, supposed to be Ricky Starks versus CM Punk. We then genuinely believed they were going to do Ricky Starks versus Steamboat, which I think we were both pretty psyched for.
Yeah, but it was the wrong kind of dragon.
The wrong kind of dragon. That somehow sounds sexual, and I don't know if it's meant to be. But yeah, it was this bit bright actually. It was, of course, the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, and what a match that he had with Ricky Starks. I would definitely recommend going and watching that. I think that was match of the night. It was brutal. It's a strap match. I think strap match really is probably now can be called the most brutal or one of the most brutal matches.
I guess now, because when was the last? How many strap matches have there been before a debut? There was all like the WWE version of like no blood and now we're getting blood again. It's pretty different.
I like it. It was really good. I did see some of. I've just not watched all of, but it was more sort of highlights from the main event, which was obviously Orange Cassidy defending his international championship against Jon Moxley. Looks like it was a really good match too, to be honest.
That's why that sounds like a proper main event.
Yeah, I think it's done a real good job of actually really showcasing Orange Cassidy again, which I think was supposed to be what happened when he had his angle with Jericho.
Yeah, I think finally we're getting there with making him the superstar.
Yeah, I think it definitely worked. I think from what I can see, as I say, I've got to see the whole match, but the two that I kind of went out of my way really to make sure I watched was Miro and Hobbs and the strap match, which I'm really happy with. If the rest of the show is obviously also going to be really good, then I will watch it at some point. But it was a lot of wrestling for 1 week, and the week's gone pretty quick. Been a busy guy, so I've just not had a chance to catch it all out. See what I did there? Got him. But I did have time because I sort of had it on in the background. Put the media conference on, right? Because it was a year removed from the last one, so I thought, well, I mean, this one surely won't have as many fireworks, which it didn't. But there was some interesting stuff on there. Tony Khan did refuse to comment on the Punk stuff, which is understandable, considering that probably is going to go down a legal route at some point, potentially. Probably, yeah. But I think for me, because Bryan Danielson was the last person to come out on the panel from the wrestlers, and I found his really interesting. But he was definitely being asked a lot, and I suppose kind of put in the limelight as maybe stepping up to be the new kind of leader on Collision to replace Punk.
Got the experience. Him and Joe could do it easily.
Yeah, I mean his answers and responses were really very much Blackpool Combat Club as a whole, and not just Bryan Danielson, but basically just saying they'll do whatever Tony needs them to do. But I think the overall atmosphere seemed to be quite largely positive by the looks of things from All Out. So hopefully they maintain that, because that was one of the things when AEW first started that kind of people were really kind of bigging up about it the most, was how that sort of backstage vibe was such a positive one.
Yeah, and I was going to bring this up actually. The amount of time you hear before Punk came in, how positive it was. Maybe one or two things about like things that had gone wrong. Obviously, were typical. It's fine. It'll be fine in like a day or two. But then Punk comes in and all these backstage fights and all these problems, and hopefully now that he's gone, they will go again and be a positive place again.
I think that's the thing.
When Vince left, like how positive backstage WWE was for a while. Yeah, how much it is, I don't know.
You can just feel it sometimes, I think, in a performance where people's heads are at.
Because one thing I didn't know until like a few days ago was, because I still haven't watched All In back yet, and apparently you can see Jack Perry's blood on Samoa Joe's arm. But I've not heard anything about.
I've not
heard about any blood.
I did watch all of All In back, but I didn't see that. No, that's not to say it's not there. I just didn't clock it. Wow. But yeah, All Out. That's all I can really sort of say on it. Really, it does look like a very good show. The matches I have seen were brilliant.
The biggest debut they ever had.
The what?
The biggest debut they ever had.
What was the debut?
CJ Perry.
Oh yeah, of course, CJ Perry. Yeah, Thing is, it's been a week and I just completely didn't clock it. But yeah, I don't know how long she's actually going to be there for, because the report kind of suggests that it's a short-term thing. But I guess they'll just sort of see, or she'll just sort of see how she gets on with it, I guess, maybe.
Well, we'll see on Collision.
Yeah. It's good, though. It's nice to see them together again. But yeah, I mean, that's the finish of the match. I just totally forgot. But
is it another example of that conspiracy theory that they are still working with WWE?
Oh, come on.
It's only because, like, Miro goes, "You're not real," and obviously everyone goes, "Well, the last time they were together was the Bobby Lashley storyline." So it's like, do you not have their Instagram or Twitter or X, what you want to call it?
Well, no, because Miro has been playing Lana or CJ Perry into storyline for a long time. Probably feels a lot longer than it actually was. It's just because Miro was off television for a really long time. But when he was doing those really, really cool Redeemer, like, backstage promo skits, talking about his wife and stuff like that, and I have to win, I have to get better, or I can't go home to my wife and stuff. Like, she kind of has been a part of that Redeemer character.
Yeah, I guess so.
Really the whole time, but it's obviously seeing her in the flesh, which I don't think anybody's going to necessarily mind. But seeing her actually there, that she's a very attractive lady, and that Miro is a very attractive man, so it works.
Man.
It's good. Well, all right. It says Dick Dastardly with his moustache, but no, I think that is really cool. But yeah, definitely, it looks like All Out's one to watch, and I will get around to watching it. But a lot of wrestling.
Yeah. It's like there's a show of wrestling every day of the week.
I think there is, isn't there? So we'll move to WWE Payback. It took place from the PPG Pants Arena. Or Paints Arena. That. It's Paints Arena, but Pants just sounds better, doesn't
it? Yeah, I guess so.
Thanks for confirming. But yeah, Payback. This was one of the, I guess, the B PLEs, right?
Technically, yeah. It's.
What makes it a B PLE? What makes a B PLE or pay-per-view? What makes a B show a B show?
Maybe because it's the first one after SummerSlam. It's kind of like, what Backlash was to Mania, and now this is the other one to SummerSlam, but.
Is anything that's not one of the big four, if we're going to still call them the big four, but going by historically, Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series in that order, is any PLE that's not one of the big four a B pay-per-view?
Well, what's Money in the Bank then?
So that's what I mean, right? So, like, Money in the Bank feels like a big deal now. Sometimes even bigger than a Survivor Series. If anything, I think Survivor Series has been a B show for a long time. Last year's was very cool with War Games. That definitely helped. Yeah. But for a really long time, because of the brand warfare stuff, I was never really that interested in it. It felt like more of a network special, as opposed to like this is an event you should actually buy if you're still doing that, or obviously, back in the day, buy on box office and pay-per-view. So, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. For me, I can see why this year's Payback would have been a B show, and I think it's anything that doesn't have Roman on. Because this is the first PLE event this year that he's not been on.
He wasn't at Backlash.
No, he wasn't at Backlash. You're right. Okay. But Backlash felt big because of the crowd.
Yeah, and it was in Puerto Rico, and you had Bad Bunny there, you had... all this really good stuff happened. This just felt like...
This was Pittsburgh, wasn't it?
Yeah. This felt like... Do you remember they used to do these episodes of Raw when SmackDown would do like an appearance? People on SmackDown would just randomly appear. It felt like one of those...
Yeah.
It felt like a 3-hour Raw featuring... But we've got specialty matches, so it's cool.
The thing is, it's probably the weaker PLE of the year so far.
I say it was better than SummerSlam personally, but
really,
I only think that because I thought there was better matches and better quality.
I think because it's shorter as well, it helps. What I was going to say is, I think that Payback. I'd say Payback's probably going to be the weakest PLE overall this year so far, but that's not to like say that it's a bad show, because it genuinely, it really wasn't. It was really good. But I think the problem it's got is because they've been on such a hot streak this year with their PLEs, you're bound to get one that's not going to live up to the hype as like one of the others.
True.
Without Roman on, it does somewhat feel like less of a big deal when he's not there, because we've become accustomed now to Roman Reigns' main event, what drama is going to unfold. But I do like the fact that we were able to focus on some other stuff here. One of the big things that you'll notice from obviously the graphic that will be around us in the video edit is there's one match in particular I really, really want to talk about. We'll go through some others, but it's actually the opener.
Yeah, I think they peaked too early in this show, but there's still some good stuff to talk about.
Great way to open the show, though. But
yeah,
Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch in a steel cage match. Trish Stratus' first ever steel cage match.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, because obviously we said this kind of was initially kind of felt like it should have been SummerSlam. Then they held off the thing in Canada, obviously, you know, where Trish is from. Mm-hmm. It didn't really go down very well with the fans, that. It felt a bit, people said it was sloppy, that it wasn't that good, XYZ. And again, none of us are wrestlers, so it's not like any of us are going to do better, is it? But that was a kind of sort of thing sort of being said about it. So there was a part of me that was a bit like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that was, I think, that easily the best women's cage match I've ever seen.
What, better than the Thunder Rosa, not Becky Lynch, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker.
I think it was better than that. Yeah, but it's one of the, obviously time will have to tell, but it's probably going to go up there in terms of one of my sort of most enjoyed cage matches.
Yeah,
the reason I think, I'm just going to say off the back of that Thunder Rosa Britt Baker comment, the reason I'm going to say I think I prefer it over that is this was two generations, and this was like, if there's ever a point in time where a "you still got it" chant actually, you know, really is very relevant and means something, I think it's here, because Trish took so much offense in that match. It was like, really, really good. But yeah, you go through what your thoughts were on it. I can't get enough of this match.
I'm not really being a big fan of cage matches, because it just felt like we're seeing, like, once you see one cage match, you're seeing them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of the same spots. Yeah,
but this one, I know. I say like someone's aged a lot, but 47-year-old Trish Stratus doing all the stuff she did in a cage, like when she's hung up on the top of the cage.
Yeah, and
then there's a suplex off the top of the cage.
A super superplex from there. Yeah, and obviously the finish of the match is taking the manhandle slam from the top rope as well.
Yeah, it's funny how they do these in cage matches, isn't it? When they do top of the rope.
Well, you got this, I suppose, like support to be able to lean back on something, haven't you? But there was, how did Trish get the injury to her forehead? So for those that haven't seen, you can find it, but she took quite a nasty sort of bump, a knock on her head, and there's definitely a lump there and bruising, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must be one of the times she got thrown into the cage wall. I can't think of anything else.
I didn't know. I think it happened before this, actually, but the spot that they did where they were taking it in turns to bounce each other's head off of the cage, and then Becky eventually gets the upper hand and starts ramming Trish into it. Like, Trish she took so much abuse. Yeah. And people will always say it, that like, you're a Hall of Famer. Again, 47 years old. Not that you'd know that if you looked at her.
No.
But people say it all the time. She didn't need to go out there and do everything she did. But my God, thank you, Trish, that you did, because it was what an amazing match.
And that must be proof of like doing all that yoga she does and like looking after herself. I'm not going to go elite her, but don't think she's done the same way. I think she just like started wrestling and then didn't really think about coming back the same way.
Do you think though? Maybe, I mean, Lita and Trish have always been very different. They just had good chemistry together, and I think because they were the two I mean, literally, no pun intended, but they were the two hottest female stars of their era. I think that's unquestionable that Trish and Lita were the top.
At the minute, I'm watching every Raw from 2001, and they are the two that get the best pops. And mainly because there wasn't a women's division at the time, really. But apart from like China at the time would get a good reaction. Maybe Molly Holly didn't really get a good reaction. You know, she's like the face woman at the time when I'm watching. Yeah, Lita and Trish just get the reaction. Maybe Lita only because she was with the Hardys. I've not seen much of her on her own at the moment, but yeah.
I think though you have to bear in mind the point in time, because it wasn't so much centered around the wrestling for the women then.
No.
So they were both good in the ring, obviously, because they rose to the top, but you still had that element of like, you know, Attitude Era into this early into, well, not quite into Ruthless Aggression for 2001, but we are kind of approaching it. But you know, there's still the way they dress and things like that. You know, it was kind of still sex icons, really. There's not really any other way to put it. But Trish absolutely was. Trish. Thank you, Trish. But even Lita was as well, because Lita appealed to, you know, all the alternative types and everything, and you know, same way as Jeff does to the female portion of the audience. You'd always hear the women go mad for Jeff. Jeff Jarrett, yeah. You know what I mean? So there was always that as well. It's just when you see the type of performance, it's not to take anything away from Becky either. Obviously, this was like was Becky's moment. She comes out with a win, of course. But when you see someone like Trish come back and have one of her best matches ever, like at this stage now in 2023, I think it is. I think it's one of her best matches.
It's up there with Mickie James at Mania 22 and, funny enough, Stephanie McMahon from 2001. No way out.
Yeah. And the other one, I always sort of talk about that one because I think it's an unsung hero of a match. But Survivor Series 2002 with Victoria. Chicago Street Fight.
You say that because you did Where's Peak, that's why.
I was just about to say, so good way to lead into that. So Widow's Peak, Victoria's move she hit in the cage.
And I think she did the pose as well.
I think
she did like one of these.
Oh, I think she did, yeah. I think she did. They called on commentary that, obviously because it's one of Trish Stratus's greatest rivals, but also that's right, wasn't it? That the first ever women's cage match was between Victoria and Lita.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
20 years ago. And that was was that main event?
No, it wasn't the main event. I remember this clearly because Matt Hardy just come back. He was doing the V1 gimmick and he just was training from SmackDown to Raw and he cost Lita this match. That's all I remember from that, really. I don't remember what was the cage match. Right.
But yeah. And then obviously Becky answers in turn with the Twist of Fate. So a Lita, technically Matt Hardy move, but a Lita move, which had kind of a double entendre to it, really, doesn't it? Because obviously it was Victoria's opponent in that cage match, but also Lita is still, as far as I'm aware, a component in this storyline. But like, it kind of, the way this ended, I think it's unquestionable. The rivalry between Becky and Trish is now done.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be revisiting it. I think, if anything, if Trish is going to stick around for longer, we'll get her and Zoe Starks, because obviously Zoe Starks does come out, tries to help Trish. Trish still loses. Trish slaps Zoe Starks. Zoe Starks goes, nah, and then hits her with that Z360. Or Z360, as we would say in the UK.
It looked really good as well. I don't know if it's the person who takes it that does it better than the person giving it.
It's basically a feast your eyes, isn't it, on like speed, pretty much, because it's just blessings.
Not getting it from me.
I wouldn't expect any. No, it's a cool move though. But yeah, it's not something you're going to be able to hit on everyone, is it?
I'd like to see her do it on like a Raquel Rodriguez or like someone that size, just to see what it's like.
I wonder how it'd look.
Well, do you remember like playing like the SmackDown games and trying to do the tombstone like a Great Khali? How weird that looked.
Yeah. I remember beating Carly as Mickey James, mentioning her.
And no one believed me.
That challenge on 06, 07? 07. Yeah,
on
there
hard,
you go.
What was it, hard or legendary?
Legend, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Back in the day, back into it, dear. But yeah, wonderful, really, really good match. Is it going to be somebody's match of the year? Could be. Fair enough if it is. Subjective, isn't it? Enjoy what you like. I thought it was really, really good.
It's probably the best women's match in WWE, at least WWE since Mania.
Oh, Rhea and Charlotte. I think Rhea and Charlotte's going to... That one still, I still think back to that match occasionally. That's how good that was. Which is a shame, really, because I suppose moving on from what was my favourite match of the night, that being that steel cage, Rhea and Rodriguez. Good match. I think there's chemistry there. Weirdly, went a bit long for me.
Well, that was the thing, because obviously there's like 6 matches, and so you're going to have time on these matches.
There is, yeah. And I like the fact that people get time, don't get me wrong. I'm not sort of going to sit here and bitch and moan about it. I think the reason it felt long is because it's another one of those weird things where I don't know why it happens, but you kind of expect when there's a bit more of a I don't want to say like blood feud, because it wasn't really a blood feud, but when there feels like there's a bit more of an angst behind it, and then a match starts with a lockup, it kind of immediately sets that tone. Like you're expecting to see these two people that have got this gripe with each other like start going to war and throwing hands, and they're doing a lockup, and it's always, again, not wrestler, but I'm just explaining like how it makes me feel really as a fan watching it, but still a good match, still got chemistry, and I still think Raquel's going to be, at the moment, she's probably still the best person to dethrone Rhea, but that's obviously not going to happen anytime soon, as one of the other matches will show us. But yeah, I don't know, that was my sort of take on it. I liked it, but it was just, I felt somewhat underwhelmed by it. I guess is, a bit of a bummer, but what did you think?
I don't know. It just felt like they are good together. The NXT matches you should definitely check out. But it just felt like I don't know. It felt like there's more to go. Maybe
I think there is.
Maybe when Liv comes back, maybe. It's hard to think of it as a feud when they do the injury angle. Then Rhea did nothing really for like 2 months. Then Raquel comes back, and then it just felt like another match.
And that's it. Like Rhea has easily had, I think, one of the best matches of the year in WWE with the Mania match with Charlotte. But I suppose it's a bit of it doesn't overly matter because she's part of the Judgment Day, and the Judgment Day have really risen, to the point where like they're kind of the main attraction on Raw, which is great. And Rhea's a part of that. But outside of probably that first defense against Zelina, which realistically was a bigger deal than it was built up to be because it was in Puerto Rico and the fans went absolutely crazy for Zelina, which was awesome.
True.
But it didn't have the build, so you kind of knew like after Mania there's no way Rhea's dropping it yet anyway, so whoever she was going to go against, it was always going to be the same. But then she had the sort of things with Natalia. There's just not really been sort of much around the women's title. Her world heavyweight, world women's championship, is it called?
I don't know which one's which, to be honest, but
hers is the world one. But it feels a bit, I don't know, like I think based on that and the fact that I thought these two were going to really go hard at each other, that this was going to be something more than it ended up being. And it doesn't mean it was bad, it's just I think I expected something different. But having said that, it is the first time that, in terms of the story they did tell in the match, it was the first time Rhea's really been given the kind of run for her money in terms of size, strength, and immovable object ness, isn't it?
Yeah,
for lack of a better word, because that's kind of what it was.
When I was watching this, I was thinking, how would they compare it to like? Is it that like a Hogan Andre, where it's like you got the big powerful one, but then you got someone who's more powerful and bigger. You know what I mean?
I don't
know how you explain it. Really,
I think it's like Undertaker and Kane, isn't it?
Well, they did have one good match, and then
two powerhouses.
Yeah, I don't. But for some reason, Hogan and Andre came into my mind. Because you're thinking the immovable force in the object, whatever it's called.
Unstoppable force, immovable object.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking when I was watching it, not like. But yeah, that's. Also, I don't think it was great that Dom had to interfere for Rhea to win. I think it should have just been like another way of cheap victory.
No, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Also, I think the placement was wrong. Because when we get to a certain other match, and what happened?
Well, this was just before the main event, wasn't it? So
yeah,
this match came after the other Judgment Day match, which we can talk about now.
Yeah,
because this was my second favourite match of the night, easily.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. It's just because obviously getting to the ending now, if you want, when the Judgment Day win, and then they do the fireworks, like, and they go, "We've got all the gold," when Rhea could lose it in like 5 minutes time or whatever.
Well, that's why I thought, because I'd said in predictions that I thought that the tag match was going to be main event. Now, obviously, I did not peg Judgment Day to win it.
No, we all thought.
I thought they were all going to fall out, but I thought that's how they were going to end the show, was like on some sort of big twist. I am kind of actually glad that Shinsuke and Seth Rollins got the main event, because it's the first time the World Heavyweight Championship's been the main event since it's been brought in on the PLE, which it does need. But you're right, yeah, it kind of felt very much like an end of a show. But I guess that WWE's response to that would be that they do, like, a main event now isn't just necessarily the last match on the card. We all know it is. Yeah. In terms of the actual main event is the very last one on. But
wasn't
because they do build multiple main events. They said SummerSlam 4 main events. Yeah, I still don't know what the fourth was.
Well, we had
Cody and Brock,
Uso and Reigns.
Yeah.
The world
Cody Brock match. World title. So that's 3. What was the fourth?
To be honest, I can't even remember the SummerSlam card.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't know where the fourth was.
It wasn't Ricochet and
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul, was it?
I don't know. Would it have been? Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
What else was there apart from that?
Well, there was another main event.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't main
this
event.
one.
Was there?
This one could have easily been main event. This was a really, really, really good match. What was it? Steel street
fight.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I liked it. It was good, but the result shocked me. They're obviously going to go longer with Judgment Day, and I like that.
Yeah, one thing that got me. There's one moment in the match that confused me. Is they did the Dom beating up Sammy and Kevin Owens, and they get thrown over that barrier, and then like 30 seconds later, Kevin Owens is busted open.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, it was hard way though. Clearly,
it must have been, because I've no idea. Obviously, with WWE with the blood policy, they can't even blade, but it's just that
it was definitely hard way. They were trying really hard to wipe that off of him. Really hard, but I think what was worse was that swanton he did from the crowd, because it looks like he kind of just went over and just basically just went straight into the floor.
Yeah,
must have hurt, but yeah,
that's not even the things I thought would have hurt more in that match. There's a certain powerbomb onto an announce table I think hurt more.
Oh, there's a lot. This was this hard hitting match, but the story really told here was that the numbers game were against him. But obviously, Jack Daniels, McDonough. It's McDonough. When I hear McDonough, I just think, like, imagine if McDonald's did a doner kebab.
That'd be nice. I love it now, actually.
Right? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jack Daniels and a McDonald's doner kebab. That's all I can think about. But yeah, he comes out. Obviously, there's a good story playing out there. I think that's a good story. But yeah, the numbers game, it was just too much. But obviously, to your point and how we came to this is because Rhea does come out here.
Yeah, her running to get to that spear was amazing.
Awesome. And the fact that when she speared Kevin Owens through the barricade, she's just a badass, isn't she? She's just a badass. I think, though, She paid homage to China recently, didn't she, with her ring gear?
Out Payback, she did.
Yes, it was a page. She'd done it before as well, but I think weirdly, she's kind of got a bit of a China effect. So you know that because there was all these sort of tales that China was quite difficult to get on with backstage towards the end of her WWF run.
Yeah.
And a big part of it was that she felt too good for the women's division. And to be honest, in all honesty, I can kind of see two sides to that. Because as the women's division was right there and then, she kind of was. But at the same time, it's not the attitude to have when you're technically the top star of the women's division. Surely you should be bringing it up. But again, just different tales from different people, isn't it? But I think that the big problem with it was that she wanted to do so much more with the men. And I think that's where we're at with Rhea. Because of the involvement with Judgment Day, she's done a lot more with the guys. That when it comes down to the women, Raquel's kind of, at the moment, the only one sort of really overly believable. That's like active every week to week. The only other people you could put in there would be Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair again, and
Asuka.
Probably Becky Lynch at this point. I don't even think Asuka.
I mean, they had matches before. I'm even trying to think of like NXT women, and there's not even like there's no one there really.
No, we should have mentioned actually. Speaking of NXT, obviously NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton was there for the show, and they showed her during the cage match, or just before the cage match, and then she did have a backstage segment with Becky Lynch, teasing that Becky's going to show up on NXT and challenge her for the NXT Women's Championship after Tiffany Stratton said, ironically, running out of challengers. But yeah, I think that maybe that's an issue with Rhea, but. You know, it's a very small thing in the grand scheme of things. I still enjoy everything I'm seeing, but just when it comes to the women's title, we've just not really had a really good feud with it yet, I guess is all. But you can say the same thing here about these tag titles. Like, since winning them in the main event of night one of WrestleMania, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens haven't really had, I don't think, an actual rivalry really over those tag titles.
Well, apart from they did the rematch on SmackDown with the Usos.
Outside of the bloodline, though, once we've moved on.
But when Kevin Owens has had injuries and Sami Zayn's had injuries, it's not going to be easy. But one of my favourite signs I saw, and this made me laugh, and I think it was during the women's match, the women's title match, was bring back the 30-day title defences.
Yeah, you'll have a nice rule, don't you?
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that they would do once in a while and not do it ever again.
Yeah, it's very
the automatic rematches. Then they said they dropped it, but yeah, there's still times when people have got automatic rematches.
Yeah, wrestling, that is how it works. Expect the unexpected at all times. But yeah, I thought this was definitely second best match on the card, second best match. So yeah, new tag champions.
Going back to the Swanton, I love the angle underneath Kevin Owens.
That was a cool visual, yeah, when he went over the camera. Very cool visual. Yeah,
it's brutal. Like when they did it's like when they used to do back in the day, the Matchman elbow.
Yeah, coming down.
Or if you watch The Wrestler, the Ram
Jam. Yeah. So you couldn't remember what the film was called the other week, but you know it's called The Ram Jam.
Did we mention The Wrestler last week?
Not last week. It was a little while ago, but we did talk about it. You forgot what the film was called. So what's that film with the wrestler in it? Oh, yeah. The Wrestler. It might not have even been on a show. It could have just been a normal conversation, but it was fairly recent. Right. Main event? Talk about main event now, or should we go through? Obviously, Cena was there. It's probably worth mentioning.
Yeah, that was okay.
Cena refereed the match. He was the host, but he refereed the match between Miz and LA Knight, which is now looks like that set up another Miz and Cena feud, which did lead to a great.
The promo afterward is amazing.
Yeah, they finally did it. Miz, and this is what we said. Like, I think we did actually say this last week, but Miz in WWE, it'd just be weird without him now at this point.
Yeah,
he really. I don't think he does get enough credit.
And it's funny, he's getting to that point where he doesn't need to win anything anymore. but
evidently,
just being there is amazing.
Yeah.
I think before we get to the main event, we should also mention the other return of wrestling.
Yes.
Jey Uso
was announced on this one. Obviously, more since has happened on Raw, but the big thing this opens up, of course, is who is going to be traded now from Raw to SmackDown.
Cody.
It seems like it's got to be Cody, right? Cody's one that brought him in on the Grayson Waller effect. It was all done on that show. It's going to lead to Jay and Jimmy one-on-one at WrestleMania. They said they've said it before, but more recently, it was around WrestleMania time, I believe, in an interview with Ariel Helwani. They've always said they wanted to do a WrestleMania against each other. That was a really good interview, by the way. If you haven't seen that, guys, and check that one out. But yeah, it's leading to that, isn't it? And I think we have to do Cody and Roman too, don't we? And this will have to be the one.
I think it'd be better if they did this a couple of months down the line. Not now. I think it's way too early. But we'll see.
It depends what you can do, though, with Cody in between now and then. I'm just going to enjoy the ride, I think, for this one and see what they do.
I think he'll feud with Grayson because Grayson Waller's on SmackDown, isn't he? So
yeah, so that'll buy a month or so, won't it?
Did you see what Grayson Waller did on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it?
What did he?
He had a photo of him saying, "Fire Jimmy for what he did to me," and he had a can of Pepsi on his face.
Fire Jay for what he did to me, but he held that. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, because they did a similar thing with on Being the Elite, of course, with a Pepsi bottle, but tit for tat. Yeah, that was cool segment, obviously, because it's bringing Jay in, and it's
and the music's
a tiny
great.
piece, but it moved along. Yeah, it's just me, Oos. But yeah, slowly moving the bloodline thing forwards, isn't it? Even without Roman being there. But I don't want to just skim over it. I kind of will skim over it unless you want to talk a bit more about it. But LA Knight versus The Miz, as we said, Cena was refereeing it. It kind of, the match was good, but it really was. Yeah, it was fine. It was good. But LA Knight getting the victory was what really mattered here, or at least it was. It was what mattered here until after the match, top of the ramp, Cena takes that ref shirt off. I guess he got hot, and kind of acknowledges LA Knight.
Yeah, I think it needed something like that to happen.
He's got a bit of a rub from Cena. So what was weird though was because we see Cena at two different points in the. I think it was two, wasn't it? We see him at two different points of the night. The second time we see him is after the next match, and that was a funny thing where he's got his bow tie and he's been the interviewer to interview the Judgment Day, who'd won their match. We saw him a bit later, but he's interviewing the Judgment Day after they won the tag titles, and he's got his little bow tie on. But he did the announcer thing, the backstage interviewer thing, where he spreads his legs out to be shorter. It was so funny. Yeah, brilliant. But what was weird is that I think, if I've got the order right, I'm pretty sure after LA Knight versus The Miz, it was a US title match between Ray and Austin Theory.
I think it was next, yeah. I
just find it really bizarre that we haven't really acknowledged Austin Theory beating Cena at WrestleMania. Not really.
Well, it's since that he's really gone downhill. Honestly.
I just don't know what happened. I'm just not sure what happened. He beats John Cena at WrestleMania, and it's just not talked about. And I expected it to Jericho level of I beat The Rock and Austin in the same night, or Paul Heyman on behalf of Lesnar, ending the streak. I know it wasn't as big as those, but it kind of was a big deal in terms of, it feels like it's somewhere in that kind of territory. And it was basically, I think, maybe mentioned the Raw after WrestleMania, and that was it? And we've just not revisited it?
Yeah, it just felt like, everyone beat Cena at WrestleMania. Everyone beat Cena. He's nobody. Which is obviously couldn't be further from the truth. No. But that's how it's been sort of made to look, wasn't it? But yeah, very the guy weird. That they want to be, and they said he could be the next Randy Orton, where it's like we'll be seeing this guy for 20 years, and we'll probably call him one of the greatest of all time. But it just felt like the US title really is holding him down a bit.
I think though, I still maintain. I think Austin Theory gets a bit too much flack. He goes out, he has good matches.
Yeah,
the attitude that he brought with him, as opposed to kind of golden egg, like that kind of metamorphosis, like post briefcase, I guess. Really, I think has helped. I just think we just need to give it a bit more time and be a bit more patient with him. Like I've never understood the Austin Theory hate. He seems like a genuinely cool dude with his interviews. Seems like a nice guy. I think he plays that type of heel that he does, that kind of cocky, I'm untouchable, obnoxious kind of heel. I think he does that really well. I just don't get what the disdain is for Austin Theory. I think he's good.
He is good. I don't get it.
And this was a good match, in all fairness. But again, this kind of feels like we are going to go. I just hope they don't turn Santos on Ray. I want them, not at least right now, I want them to have a match and maybe Santos win it where they're both faces and pass the torch that way.
It looks like it's going that way, but do you know what?
I hope so.
There was one thing that made me laugh, because it's LWO, and they came out because in Pittsburgh it's the PWO. Yeah, that's not the first PWO in wrestling, and you're probably not going to like this.
What was the first PWO?
Did you ever hear of Women's Extreme Wrestling?
Yeah, of course.
There was a PWO, and I bet you can guess what the P stood for.
Wait, no, I can't. Why don't you tell everybody?
All right, it was Pussy World Order.
Of course it was. It's good though. That is funny. But yeah, I don't think they meant to come out as the Pussy World Order.
No, but one thing that made me laugh also was when they all kept, when LW came out with Ray at the entrance, and I thought, hang on, is Selena really that tall compared to Rey Mysterio? But no, she's got really big boots on.
It's also funny seeing the Cinnamon Crunch advertising everywhere again. It's Ray's thing now, isn't it?
But they didn't say that at all, did they? Because how,
I don't remember it being mentioned on commentary. No, I mean it probably was, but it wasn't as big of a deal as like it was at Mania. But I think what you said the other day is right. Was something they could do. Ray and Dominic, if they're both still holding the US titles at some point, should at least have an interaction with each other whilst they've both got the belts. Because obviously you've got Dominic with the North American and Ray's champion.
It does make me think they will do. It does make me think Survivor Series again would be brand warfare, because there's no stories about it being War Games again.
I don't think it is War Games again, but I don't mind a bit of brand warfare, just not the whole pay-per-view or PLE, whatever you want to call it. But this was a good match though. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I think main event. Shinsuke finally getting something to do after all, because he basically hasn't done anything. I know he was in Money in the Bank, but the biggest sort of thing he's done all year was really just, it wasn't even in WWE, it was retiring the Great Muta.
It was in the crowd.
It was what?
Great Muta was in the crowd.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant he was in the crowd for his match. I was like, how does that work? But yeah, that's the biggest thing he's done this year up to this point now. Obviously, world title match. So that was good to see, and I think this match sort of showed just how good, or at least reminded people just how good Shinsuke actually is.
Yeah, because I had mixed stuff about this match before I watched it. Because I only watched it today because just had a lot on. And it's been too hot to like.
It's been too hot to watch men.
3 hours.
Yeah, it's been too much to watch other sweaty men hit each other.
And women. Don't forget the women.
I mean, yeah, but it sounds weird if you took a soundbite of "it's too hot to watch these sweaty women hit each other." I mean, I've said it now, so it's done. But yeah, the men and the women.
And going back to something I said for All In, Shinsuke having a pre-entrance was really cool.
Yeah.
Something I wish they'd do more in all companies, really.
But what do you think of the match?
I thought it was all right, but it does feel like they are keeping something for another match down the road. I want to say they didn't say what the next one is, did they? But I think it's
the next PLA?
Yeah. Is it Extreme Rules or is it?
It's Fastlane, isn't it?
Fastlane. Yeah, I didn't see a promo for it because you know how they usually do promos for everything.
Yeah. Well, I think the next one WWE wise is NXT. It's an NXT one.
No Mercy.
No Mercy, that's it. NXT No Mercy is next, and then after that, I'm sure it's Fastlane. I could be wrong, but I think it's Fastlane.
Because I know Survivor Series is 2 months away, so whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah.
In Chicago, I should say. So we all know what's going to happen there.
Oh, goodness sake! I don't think it will.
Well, apparently All Out was not that bad, even though it's in Chicago. So we'll see.
I think he got a lot of it out of the way on Collision because of obviously he came out and did the whole thing there. But anyway, Tony Khan, that was obviously people listening.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the match was okay, but I think they've got more to play with.
Yeah, I liked it. I just thought it was cool seeing Shinsuke. It was good seeing the world title in the main event. Like I say, tag titles easily could have been it, but makes 100% sense to have the world title in the main event.
And Shinsuke's first. You just froze a bit, so it's a bit weird. And Shinsuke's first main event, which, apart from Money in the Bank, yeah, I think that's true.
I enjoyed it. It was good. Can we make an argument now that Rollins is one of the best of the last sort of? I mean, I think you can make the argument that he's one of the best of his era, but is he one of the best really in the last kind of 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he got the credit for a long time because there might be an resentment because he was married to Becky Lynch. You know how wrestling fans are, and when he had a go at Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega online.
He definitely went downhill a bit then. I think maybe that some of that was the pressure because he was world champion then, and he was getting flack for all of that. He got flack because of the Hell in a Cell with the Fiend.
Yeah. But when he was IC champion, how good that run was. When he had a match with Elias that was really good, and matches with even the matches with Baron Corbin when he was champion around that time were really good. It was just that it was a long feud with Corbin, and you had Becky with Lacey Evans. That was not that great at the time.
God, yeah. Rollins is a weird one because he's gone up and down a lot. You know, as a part of the Shield is a hot streak because everybody loved that Shield debut and that early run. When he turned on him, even better because he become big star, and you could really tell there was something there. And obviously, Heist of the Century, cashing in Money in the Bank at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Then I feel like it kind of went downhill a bit after that when he kind of then turned face, but then he rose back up again around the kind of Beast Slayer time, because obviously he was injured for a long time because of that when he broke his ankle, or it was something, wasn't it?
He had a knee injury
that was his knee, yeah, that house show where he did the sunset flip power bomb from the turnbuckle and he landed and buckled the knee. You could see the knee just go, but yeah, and then it went downhill again. After he wins the title, everyone loved it, but then went downhill again, like you said, because of things he was saying and around Hell in a Cell and all of that. And then I think it sort of came back up again during the Messiah stuff.
I love that stuff.
And I think really from there, he's kind of stayed on that career high because he morphed the Messiah into, I guess, the drip god thing that he's got going now, which obviously has worked really well. So it's just, I guess, finding the identity, isn't it?
Yeah, and getting the right people to be at the right time.
That is true. Yeah, overall, I thought it was a very good show. For a B show, if we're going to call it a B show, I thought it was certainly still very good. Weakest of the year, which is still technically a compliment because it's a year that's been filled with absolute bangers from WWE. And to be honest, to flip back to AEW as well, I don't think AEW's had a bad PLE this year either. So
no,
2023, I think we'll probably look back on as one of the best years for wrestling content, PLE wise, in quite some time.
I think so. Maybe the best since 2000.
Certainly WWE, because 2000 was a really good year.
They've been good years. I'm just saying, like 2000 is the one that comes up all the time.
Yeah, because outside of WrestleMania, it really was amazing.
Well, I said this. I don't know if I said it on here, but it was great until Steve Austin comes back. Like no, Unforgiven, No Mercy. Then to me, it's not the same. I don't know why it didn't get bad, but
just went in a different direction.
Was pretty good. I know people hate the
Until you got to Invasion, yeah.
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that point now. And that 01, 2001, I'm just on the night after Mania 17.
Okay.
I'm waiting to see where this like dip really gets to. See if it's really bad, like people say.
It's. I think it's a bit more to the latter part of the year, isn't it? Really.
I think so.
Well, there you go. That's Payback. A little bit of All In. It's not actually seen it all, but yeah, another good week of wrestling. Yeah. Why don't you let us know what you thought of WWE Payback, and if you've seen All Out, you can let us know what you thought of All Out too. You can do that down in the comments below, and wherever you're listening to us, if you're on one of the podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, lots of others too. Do make sure to give us a follow, a subscribe, whatever the lingo may be. And again, 5 stars on Spotify or Apple. 5 stars makes me very happy. What about you?
Well, 5 stars is great for Meltzer, but yeah, we'll take 5 stars whenever we can.
We'll take 5 stars. Thank you. Until then, Ash, I guess I'm going to be back next week. I've got something to cover next week. And I don't know who the hosts are going to be with me next week. Ash could very well be here. Also looking at some guest hosts to come on as well. But I'm going to open up a big can of worms next week.
Really?
It's going to be very divisive. I'm going fishing. I'm going full boogeyman next week.
Well, you're going to lie about your age, but still get a contract.
Next week, what I will be discussing is wrestling fans. And I'm just going to leave that there. It's going to be a broad and no doubt
where are you going?
divisive topic. Well, I'm going to Bournemouth tomorrow, actually, because it's meant to be nice. I'm going to go down the beach. I'm going to put sun cream on and burn anyway. And yeah, I'm going to come back looking like Patrick Starfish. What are you doing?
Well, watch Banbury and hopefully we win.
Hopefully so. But yeah, no, I'm going to go back on Starfield now. So that's basically my life till Christmas. And until then,
yeah.
What are you doing?
Don't know. Probably go back on to the Raw after Mania 17.
Well, there you have it. Everybody, we'll catch you again next week here on the TMOF Wrestling Podcast. Hope you've had a great time, and wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a great day. Do stay safe, look after each other. Catch you again next week.
Yeah, will do.
Bye, everybody. Everybody.
Make sure it doesn't look like a cock.